another hypothetical here. Let's stay in the ACC.
Okay.
Virginia Tech.
Okay.
Now, there is a line to straddle when you're talking about teams with new coaches, and especially Virginia Tech, because there is this infusion of cash, $229 million going into the athletics budget.
Mm-hmm.
There is obviously a new coach that everybody's very excited about who has infused the program almost overnight with talent from other pipelines, notably the Penn State pipeline.
Yeah.
My scenario here is Virginia Tech goes 8-4.
Okay.
They go 8-4, but they lose the big 3 road games on their schedule in the second half of the year.
List them
Those
out.
being against Clemson, against SMU, and against Miami. So, in many ways, this is the same old James Franklin storyline. Losing the big ones.
Okay.
All of these on the road, so it's not easy.
Also, they're not big in year one in the same way that, he was criticized at Penn State. But yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm going for
Yeah.
here. 8-4, another loss along the way. You lose the 3 big ones, back half of the schedule, again, on the road at Clemson, at SMU, at Miami. Is that enough for fans to feel good about the new direction under James Franklin?
Yes. Yes, absolutely it is. And I don't hesitate with that just because they haven't. When was the last year they won 8 games was 2019. So we're talking about a pre-COVID situation for Virginia Tech, winning 8 games, that the Brent Pry stretch was marred by a lack of progress, that the end of Fuente was pretty terrible in terms of lack of progress and recruiting struggles, that if James Franklin immediately comes in and wins 8 games, and the understanding is he is going to be and have a staff of great talent evaluators and developers, and that they're going to be able to threaten basically everybody in the ACC, even if, they arrive at big games and they're not able to get it done. Virginia Tech has been so beaten down by struggles at various position groups and sides of the ball that, look, if they can throw the ball and they can stop other teams sometimes from throwing the ball, it feels like there will be joy in Mudville, right? That there is going to be, the vibes will be electric. So if they're going 8-4,
right,
we are then assuming if they're losing to those big 3, Clemson, SMU, Miami, you're losing to like Pitt or Cal, maybe even starting 6-1, so establishing some pretty good vibes at the start. I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine.
What's the cutoff line, though? What's the cutoff line? So if 8-4, even with losses to the perceived, let's just say, better teams in this, I don't know if Clemson is a team that I would rank above.
They're in a
Virginia
better
Tech.
place as a program because they did make the playoff and win the ACC 2 years ago.
I need to. This is not a full-fledged preview.
Right? No, I'm with you. Keep going.
But you lose to those 3 teams. If 8-4 doesn't do it, what about 7-5? 7-5 gonna give you the willies at all?
I'm fine with 7-5. They won
6-6. 6-6.
They didn't win 7 games in the regular season with Brent Pry.
3-9. What about 3-9? No injuries.
And sort of similar struggles throwing the ball and pass defense. Like very little has changed even with a new coach. That's a disaster.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a nightmare. That's a
4-8.
nightmare.
What about 4-8?
I think if they don't make a bowl game in year 1, with this specific schedule, with how it opens up, VMI, ODU, all of the the abbreviations,
right,
at Maryland. Well,
who they lost to, by the way, last year. That was sort of the death knell for Brent Pry.
Look, that's progress. Beating the Monarchs.
That's right.
You get September Maryland, danger.
Yeah,
absolute danger. Boston College seems like they're in a terrible place right now. You can't lose. That game's on the road, but even still, you have an opportunity to get those 4 games in against teams who are not obviously strong in spring before you get a Pitt team at home. That to me is a super interesting game. And then, look, you're flying across the country and playing Cal. We mentioned that as a potential threat. I think that's the sort of like stretch in there, Pitt at Cal and Georgia Tech, with Pitt and Georgia Tech at home, where it's like, all right, what is this program? What is Ethan Grunkmeyer, if he is indeed the starter? What does that offense look like with him, with a first-time play caller? Ty Howell?
Ty Howell, yep.
So that to me is the like, okay, let's see what this season's ceiling can be. Because the rest of the way, there's no expectation that they're going to win at Miami right now.
No.
There's no expectation that they are going to be like competitive. SMU is a good SMU team once again on the road.
Right.
So I don't know, man. You go even 7-5, 8-4, and there's like obvious signs of progress. I think he's going to recruit the hell out of that place.
He will. And again, I'm just going to reiterate.
I know.
This is not a question of like, does James Franklin make it to 2020?
No. I know.
James Franklin will be there for as long as he wants to stay.
You're doing a pre-vibe check.
Pre-vibe check.
Yeah.
Now, here is the other thing that I would point out.
Yeah.
And I think it warrants mentioning. Just because it's so freaking weird that they retain Brent Pry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even saying that's a bad move. Brent Pry was a really good defensive coordinator.
But this is different context now.
Penn State. Completely different context. And so my question is, to what end does that infusion of talent make Brent Pry better at coaching defense? Because the defense that he oversaw last year sucked.
Yeah.
That was a bad defense a year ago. Now, new talent gets an opportunity to reunite with James Franklin. It worked very well the first time around. That's how he got the Virginia Tech job in the first place. But my open question at this point, amid all the other open questions about Virginia Tech, is does the talent make Brent Pry's defense better? Or are we going to see more of the same because it's still Brent Pry at Virginia Tech?
Oh, I think if the talent is indeed better, right? That
it should be better.
If the transfers that are coming in, and he's focusing on less, right? So if you're a defensive coordinator and you don't need to worry about also being a head coach, and there's enough taken off of your plate, institutional familiarity, you would assume there's some positivity there to be gleaned. So if less is on his plate and it looks like the talent should be an upgrade, it's hard to see a situation in which they're not noticeably better on defense. Look, it's an interesting roster of quarterbacks to face, right? But there's nobody on this, like, maybe until like Kevin Jennings and then Darian Mensah near the end of the season. But before Halloween, there's no obvious quarterback, depending, I guess, how you feel about, Mason Heinschel and JKS. But there's nobody really.
Malik Washington, hello?
There's nobody around the top tier of what we perceive to be, the best 10 to 14 quarterbacks in the country until later on in the year.